Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to start a teaching on the Scarlet Thread, marking the Melchizedek Narrow Path to righteousness. The Scarlet Thread, marking the Melchizedek Narrow Path to righteousness, began before the foundation of the world. The scarlet thread of righteousness appears in the very first verse of Genesis 1:1 to the very last verse of Revelation 22:21. I say it appears there because his word, the word, Yahusha HaMashiach, has no beginning nor end.
Above all powers, above all kings, above all nature and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man, you were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders the world has ever known, above all wealth and treasures of the earth, there's no way to measure what you're worth. Crucified, laid behind the stone, you lived to die, rejected and alone like a rose, trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me. Above all powers, above all kings, above all nature and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man, you were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms,
In John chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim. All came to be through him, and without him, not even one came to be that came to be. Revelation 22, 13 and 14. He told us, I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Yahweh is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. He is everywhere, he is all-knowing, and he is all-powerful. He knows the beginning from the end. He is the Aleph and the Tav, the Alpha and the Omega. He knew us before we were born and began our redemptive rescue. The Aleph and the Tav is even found in Genesis 1:1, Hebrew definition 8:5-3. He knows the number of days we have on this earth. He knows the plans he has for us, good and not of evil, plans for a future and a hope. And he even knows the number of hairs on our head. Those that have received him have also received his breath of life, the promise of the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh. They have been washed by the blood of the Lamb and are marked as being his. In Psalm 139, 16-18, your eyes saw my unformed body. See, he knew us before we were formed. He knew us before we were being formed in our mother's womb. Your eyes saw my unformed body, and in your book, all of them were written, the days they were formed, while none was among them. And how precious are your thoughts to me, O El! How great has been the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more than the sand. When I wake up, I am still with you. In Psalm 87, verse 5 and 6, we read, and of Zion it is said, each one was born in her. For the Most High himself does establish her. Yahweh does write in the register of the peoples. He himself writes this. Yahweh does write in the register of the peoples. This one was born there. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 1-3. For this Melchizedek, sovereign of Salem, priest of the Most High Elohim, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the sovereigns and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all, his name being translated indeed, first sovereign of righteousness, and then also sovereign of Salem, that is, sovereign of peace. Without father, without mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but having been made like the Son of Elohim, remains a priest for all time. Adam was the first preacher of righteousness, but after the fall, the power to rule the earth was seized by Satan. From that point, Satan used the weaknesses and greed of fallen mankind to promote his plan and not the redemptive plan of Yahweh. Satan knew that without the shedding of blood, there was no redemption for sin. Satan is very well versed in what the Bible says, and he uses that knowledge for evil, not for good. He's a counterfeit. He counterfeits everything. He deceives by giving mankind temporal powers and prestige, but Yah is the only one that can give us life and life more abundantly. And this world doesn't realize that. They have been badly deceived in these final days. For Yahweh so loved the world that he gave us his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. In Genesis 3, chapter 22 through 24, we read, "And Yahweh Elohim said, See, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So Yahweh Elohim sent him out of the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. And he drove the man out, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life." One of Satan's main weapons is mixing clean and unclean. Was this not what the tree of good and evil was all about? It was a mixture, and the adversary loves to concoct and corrupt anything and everything he can. He's an infiltrator. Immediately after the fall of Adam, Yahweh's plans for man's redemption is concealed through the Old Testament and is revealed in the New Testament. The scarlet thread of redemption manifested through Yahusha and his word teaches us our part in this redemptive process. We are one body. We are one body with him, and we each have a function. We are the one new man. We are the final remnant of the one new man. The adversary is a counterfeit. He too has a plan, but it is for his own power and glorification. He too believes in the shedding of blood, but it is to promote his death culture of darkness and has nothing to do with having life and having it more abundantly. He is a liar and the father of lies. After the fall of Adam, the power to rule was seized by Satan upon this earth. And it was dark. And it worked through mankind and it worked through leaders. But also, Yahweh was in control of all things and has been in control from the very beginning and did implement his plan of redemption from the very beginning. Yah's scarlet thread of redemption would be intricate, it would be detailed, and it would survive the test of time in this fallen world and would continue to flourish for eternity. Ecclesiastes 4:12, we read, "Although one might be overpowered, two withstand him, and a threefold cord is not readily broken." So Yahweh initiated and revealed his redemptive plan. Yah's redemptive scarlet thread immediately manifested in Genesis 1:1. You know, we see the Aleph and the Tav throughout his word. And he is the Aleph and Tav. He is the word. And every jot and tittle will be fulfilled. So Yah's redemptive scarlet thread immediately manifested in Genesis 1:1 that would break down the partition of the barrier. See, those angels had those flaming swords, would not allow Adam and Eve to go back into the garden. And that partition barrier had to be broken down. In Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, we see the door, Yahusha, the way had been opened. And that was done by the door, Yahusha HaMashiach himself. In Ephesians chapter 2, 13 through 15, we read, "But now in Messiah Yahusha, you who once were far off have been brought near by the blood of the Messiah. For he is our peace, who has made both one, and having broken down the partition of the barrier, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, the Torah of the commands in dogma, the book of the law, so as to create in himself one new man from the two, thus making peace. And in Revelation 4:1-3, after this, I looked and saw a door having been opened in the heaven. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, "Come up here, and I shall show you what has to take place after this." And immediately I came to be in the spirit, and I saw a throne set in the heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he who sat there was like a jasper and a ruby stone in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne, like an emerald in appearance. The scarlet thread of promise was given to Abraham to redeem Yahweh's people from this fallen world. Although his people would at times be disobedient and fall into the ways of the world, which brought consequences, there were always a remnant of his faithful followers that he would continue to work through and give us the promise that was given to Abraham. He would maintain that scarlet thread of righteousness that would lead to our royal high priest, Yahusha HaMashiach. And I have shared this chart many times before, and it's foundational. And I don't plan on going through it again today, but I have previous videos that I'll leave a link below in the description section. But through his new covenant, blood ratified, through his life, death, burial, and resurrection, he proposes to us to this very day. People can receive it or reject it. He has sealed it. He sealed this covenant by his own precious blood once and for all. And then those that accept follow through with his covenant confirming meal, which connects us back to the promise given to Abraham in Genesis 12. Because first, he had to do so to fulfill the blood covenant agreed to in Genesis 15, when Abraham asked for a guarantee of the promise, the unconditional promise he had given in Genesis 12. So Yahusha fulfilled all that. And that journey from the promise given to Abraham started the scarlet thread that was woven throughout biblical history all the way to the end, when once again he will make us a complete kingdom of priests. We are just the final remnant. And we see through this chart that they were disobedient with the golden calf, and on that day 3,000 died. So that when it began with the preachers of righteousness, starting with Adam, it was maintained all the way through the time of Moses until that sin of the golden calf. And then the preachers of righteousness, the Melchizedek priesthood, was denigrated for a season, and the Aaronic Levitical priesthood was established, and they were to administer the harsh schoolmaster, the book of the law, until Yahusha could come. So due to that disobedience, that scarlet thread was never broken. It was denigrated for a while until Yahusha HaMashiach could once again elevate the Melchizedek priesthood back to its reigning position by his death, burial, and resurrection. He's our high priest after the Melchizedek order, and he is from the tribe of Judah. And when he gave us the promise of the Father, 3,000 were saved. And shortly after that, many, many more. I want us to listen to a clip from last week's Shabbat 2024 that Matthew Nolan gave. It's a 7-minute clip, but it's very powerful and it has a strong message for this world today.
And within those administrations, there is what? At the mountain, a proposal. Yahweh proposes to Israel, and they say, yes, all that you say we will do. Acceptance. There is blood ratification. The covenant is sprinkled. And then they go up to the mountain and they break bread. There's a covenant confirming meal. At one administration of Torah, perfect administration of Torah. Fast forward to the other piece of bread, Yahusha at Passover. He rides in on a donkey. He proposes to Israel. They lay down the palm fronds. They totally accept him. There's blood ratification, and there's a covenant confirming meal. A sandwich which Israel was subsided on for close to 1,500 years until the true bread showed up at Passover and guided Israel for the first 40 days of their journey to Shavuot, leaving us to rely on the leading of the Spirit to get us back to the mountain priesthood. It's pretty interesting. Now, I began this teaching, I'm kind of winging it today. I think you guys can see, it's kind of like a no notes or very limited notes Shavuot teaching here. But I did talk about how, there's the counterfeit. There's the broad road, the narrow road that leads to life, and that there's a counterfeit. And there's black and white, and there's satanic, luciferic magnification imagery. And especially in this technological age in which we live, there's so much coming. And we stare at these screens that are built on sand, right? An electrical magnetic frequency. Houses built on sand. It's imagery. It's all frequency. So we've got to be careful. So with that, I'll take you to Genesis chapter 41, verse 40. We'll talk about Paul Perer, a priest of On, a pagan priest, a pagan occult demonic priest. Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 41, verse 40. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphpananeah. That means the bread man of life. And he gave to him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potpharah, a pagan priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. So Joseph's father-in-law served as an occultic priest of On. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the, how many? 7. You see that theme again, right? 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth handfuls. Do you see? We've got harvest, we've got the 7. You see how this is all connected to what we're talking about today. Because, brethren, there is a war of the priesthoods. There is a war of the priesthoods. Satan has his steps and Yahweh has his steps. Which path will you choose to ascend upon? Because they're both asking you to climb the path of ascension. We are on a journey, and each path, like I said, leads to a blood ritual and a covenant. Which one are you going to take? I mean, Beyonce, she'll lead you on a journey. The politicians, they'll lead you on a journey. It's, a broad road, and it'll lead to adrenochrome and blood rituals and sacrifices. I mean, I was at the gym yesterday, and I'm not sure what gender it was, but it was doing pull-ups, and it had a full Baphomet t-shirt on. I mean, it's right there in broad daylight. A full Baphomet goat head doing pull-ups. You know, again, you know, there's always this common theme of skittle head colors. I don't understand that, but that seems to be a common theme with this occult rituals and all of this Baphomet stuff. But it's everywhere. But don't think that they're not interested in making covenant with blood ritual. But it's the wrong road. It'll lead you to Epstein Island, right? Rather than the mountain. Which way are you going to go? But it's always going to end in a blood ritual and a covenant. But which path do you choose, brethren? Because the world is pushing you one way. It's everywhere. I mean, look, for an example, you've got, you know, like a 33-degree Mason. So what is that? How many steps is that, right? It says it right there. It's the final degree reached in the Luciferic order. It's the culmination of a journey into the satanic realm with what? A blood ritual and a covenant. It's the ultimate temple destiny. But what temple is it leading it to? The barley temple silos of Egypt. That's where it'll lead you to. The barley temple silos of Egypt. But we know that Satan, he can't create anything. He exists only in the realm of counterfeit, magnification, imagery, and projection. But there's another way. It's the way of Malachi. And he said that that way would become apparent to the last generation, that they would turn back to the ways of Moshe. They would return to the teachings of Moshe. They would return to Mount Sinai, to the commandments contained in covenant.
Hallelujah. In Hebrews chapter 9, 19 through 23, we read, "For when according to Torah, every command had been spoken by Moses to all the people, he took the blood of calves and goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book itself and all the people, saying, 'This is the blood of the covenant which Elohim commanded you.' And in the same way, he sprinkled with blood both the tent and all the vessels of the service. And according to the Torah, almost all is cleansed with blood, and without shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. It was necessary then that the copies of the heavenly ones should be cleansed with these, but the heavenly ones themselves with better slaughter offerings than these." Verse 24 through 28, "For Messiah has not entered into a set apart place made by hand, figures of the true, but into the heaven itself, not to appear in the presence, but into the heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of Elohim on our behalf. Not that he should offer himself often, as the high priest enters into the set apart place year by year with blood not his own. For if so, he would have had to suffer often since the foundation of the world. But now he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the offering of himself. And as it awaits men to die once, and after this the judgment, so also the Messiah, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, shall appear a second time apart from sin to those waiting for him unto deliverance." Throughout the millenniums, there has always existed a prevailing remnant. Each believer since the beginning has had a purpose and a role to fulfill in bringing the one new man born from above to full fruition. That one new man is spiritual Israel that has been washed by the blood of the Lamb. We read about 7 men that were chosen in Acts chapter 6, verse 1, to help meet the need of the exponential growth of believers after the promise of the Father was poured out at Pentecost. We read, "And in those days, when the taught ones were increasing, there arose a grumbling against the Hebrews by the Hellenists, because their widows were overlooked in the daily serving. So the 12 summoned the group of the taught ones and said, 'It is not pleasing for us to leave the word of Elohim and serve tables. Therefore, brothers, seek out from among you 7 men who are known to be filled with the set-apart spirit and wisdom, whom we shall appoint for this duty. But we shall give ourselves continually to prayer and to serving the word.'" We continue in verse 8 through 15. "And Stephen, filled with faith and power, did great wonders and signs among the people. But some of those of the so-called congregation of the freedmen, the Cyrenians, Alexandrians, and those from Cilicia and Asia, rose up disputing with Stephen. But they were unable to resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spoke." I mean, when his Ruach HaKodesh works in you and through you, you speak wisdom way above most people's heads that proclaim to be intellectuals. Verse 11, "Then they instigated men to say, 'We have heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses and Elohim.' And they stirred up the people and the elders and the scribes. So they came upon him, seized him, and brought him to the council. And they set up false witnesses who said, 'This man does not cease to speak blasphemous words against this set-apart place in the Torah. For we have heard him saying that this Yahusha of Nazareth shall overthrow this place and change the institutes which Moses delivered unto us.' And all who sat in the council looked steadily at him, saw his face was like the face of a heavenly messenger." What was happening here? Because we know in the book of Acts, the shift was taking place, correct? The shift back to the Melchizedek priesthood. And the Aaronic Levitical priesthood had served its role of administering the book of the law that brought curses and blessings. It was a harsh schoolmaster. But there were those that did not make the shift. And to this day, there are those that refuse to make the shift because they want to hold on to the power. They want to hold on to the prestige. They want glory for themselves. Our life's purpose in this redemptive plan may not be easy. Yahusha himself told us in this world we would have tribulation, but he told us also to be of good cheer, for he had overcome the world. And I'm just paraphrasing from John chapter 16, verse 33. He also told us in Matthew chapter 10, 28 through 32, "And do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul. But rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin, and not one of them falls to the ground without your Father? And even the hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not fear. You are worth more than many sparrows." "Everyone," he goes on to say, "therefore, who shall confess me before men, him I shall also confess before my Father who is in the heavens. But whoever shall deny me before men, him I shall also deny before my Father who is in the heavens." See, Stephen was recounting the path that marked the redemption of the righteous, the scarlet thread that began from the beginning of his word to the very end. He reviewed that whole process, that unbroken scarlet thread that manifested in their day through Yahusha HaMashiach and all that he would do to fulfill the Torah, all the prophecies spoken of him. And yet, to this day that we live in, there are more prophecies to be fulfilled, and he is returning. Everything that he has spoken of has come to fruition to date, and we have no doubt that it will be completed. So Stephen, he was about to weave the scarlet thread through history before this religious council. He chose to boldly confess Yahusha HaMashiach, Jesus of Nazareth, as Messiah before the council and in front of all mankind to this day without fear of death. They were telling of the shift that was promised, and he takes them intricately down the path that marked the way in Yahusha HaMashiach. As we close this Shabbat, may we be blessed to gather again next Shabbat as we continue weaving the scarlet thread throughout his word, the manifestation of which is Yahusha HaMashiach, Jesus of Nazareth, our royal high priest after the order of Melchizedek. So I want to close with a closing praise and worship song.
Generations falling down in worship to sing the song of ages to the Lamb, and all who've gone before us and all who will believe will sing the song of ages to the Lamb. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all, and the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. If you